think we can pass the second presentation. The second presentation will be held, I think, by Niels Seidel from the Fernuniversiteit in Egen. Niels is a postdoctoral researcher at the Fernuniversiteit in Egen. His research focus is on educational technologies, adaptive learning, and learning analytics. Niels, please share your presentation, and the floor is for you.
Actually, I'm not presenting alone. I'm presenting together with Heike Karoli. She should also be here in the room.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
I hope you can hear me well. Okay, so yes, thank you for inviting us today. We will present our first results from our field study in distance learning in Germany, presenting our approach for an adaptive support of self-regulated learning. Yeah, next slide, please, Niels. Thank you. Yeah, the field study we are presenting is a part of our APLE project at the Fernuniversity in Hagen. In 2018, we started to build up our research learning management system that enables us to track learning behavior. In Germany, it's a bit challenging as it needs to be in line with the GDPR. The data we collected is just from this winter term, from October 2020 to March 2021. And we observed two totally different courses. So the one course was the computer science course with 254 users, whereas 95 participants were in our research study. Yet the other course is an educational science module with 260 users in the winter term, and 75 participants were in our study. In our presentation, we will give insights in the development of a semester planning tool for Moodle LMS that supports metacognitive learning by addressing planning, monitoring, and self-reflection. In our field study, we examine behavioral data that derive from the usage of the planning tool and also used these data in combination with self-report questionnaires. We will therefore give you an insight in the concept and the prototyping of the rule-based and context-sensitive adaptive learning environment that we are working on and with in our research. So I'll give you a bit more information about self-regulated learning first. Self-regulated learning describes abilities and skills of a person to achieve knowledge based on learning and experience dependent self-set goals and expectation by making use of resources. These resources can derive from context. They are strategies, interactions like collaborations. They are experience or skills. They are dependent on motivation and reflection. This includes also to independently plan, control, and adapt the learning process according to improve and to gain knowledge. In this context of distance learning, this adaptation of goals or the fulfillment of processing primarily considered motivational factors, time management, learning strategies, and contextual information, of course. If we are looking at the models of self-regulated learning, these are oriented either on the process or on a shell or layer-like structure. One well-known process-based model is described by Zimmerman. He refers to the work of Bandura and Pintrich, and this is most often used as a basis for SRL research. So this process-oriented models often emerge from learning diary studies in research processes. And these models differ a bit in its terminology, but only slightly in the structure and scope they are observing. while Zimmerman locates self-monitoring and self-checking in the performance phase, so they build up one phase on it. Pintridge, for example, uses a 4-phase cycle model in his work. Yeah, and we in our project therefore also figured out that a 4-phase model is most suitable for that what we could see in our data. And yeah, therefore we use the model of planning, performance, monitoring, and reflection. Yeah, Pintridge and his college also generated a motivated strategies of learning questionnaire, the MSLQ. This is an instrument for assessing self-regulated learning by self-reports. In Germany, we have a translated and tested version of this that we can use. And we have also, since a few years, a short version of this list K that we have used in our study here. An additional perspective on adaptations and regulation processing is also described in our model here as a systemization of different levels of regulation according to the goal, pattern, strategy, and execution, and that we will use in the later years when we start more working on systematic planning of adaptation rules. So let's have a look at the approaches that we can see. Approaches of adaptive learning according to self-regulation required a complex architecture. One of the challenges for self-regulated learning support is to consider individual learning progress, learning styles, and the potential of the support. Adaptation rules are dependent on categories and combinations of information that are needed to formulate rules. Approaches of modeling learner types for self-regulated learning mostly uses cluster according to learning strategies, activity levels, or a combination of learning content and goal settings. In literature, we were also looking for approaches that we can make use of in our research. Yeah, but unfortunately, there was just a poor outcome. We found, yeah, a little gap regarding to the combination of self-regulated learning and adaptive learning. So just a few reviews only mentioned self-regulated learning as a target. Yeah, but in our study, particularly interesting is the work of the approach for a model that for modeling of 4 styles of learner types that Suki and colleagues did in 2015. They used data mining according to the SRL phases, like planning, performance, control, and reflection. And they could differentiate 4 styles of learner types: the activist, the reflector, theorist, and pragmatist. So we will refer to these later on in our presentation. Yeah, for the first years of conceptual thinking, we were addressing some ideas or direction of planning adaptations. So adaptation should support students in their self-regulated learning process across all stages, and they should build up an awareness for metacognitive, cognitive, and resource-related strategies. Yes, as we know, the expansion and strengthening of self-regulated learning skills and learning strategies are especially important for learning success and for being capable in challenging situations. One important goal is also for us to put the learner into account so that he finally has the responsible for his learning process and its regulations. So, and how we transferred this to into our learning management system is Niels' part. So he will continue to present.
Thank you, Heike, for introducing the theoretical background and our motivation for this research. As Heike explained, there were 4 different stages on how to support separated learning in the model of Zimmerman. And our first goal was to map these 4 stages into a learning environment like or learning management system like Moodle. What you see here is a screenshot from the semester planning tool that was included into a Moodle learning environment, and it's based here on the course overview page. It means Moodle, which is organized into different courses, and on the course overview page, you get usually a list of all learning resources and the sections of the course. And on top of this, you find the semester planning tool. That means if you're entering the course, the first what you see is this planning tool, and the tool basically contains here what you see as a list of milestones. That means the planning phase of the self-regulation is based on milestones. Each milestone is related with individual learning goal and related with a set of resources and activities available in the course that need to be performed in order to achieve the goal. Each milestone, as you know from project management planning things, has a due date. Here, this milestone, for example, is due in 2 months. And it can be easily edited, and you'll find a progress bar indicating you how far the progress has developed. And since we are here talking about self-regulation, the student has to decide on his own whether a certain resource or activity has been worked on sufficiently or not. So that means this is not automatically checked as soon as you are entering, let's say, a text page or an assessment. The student has to make this check mark here on the side. As soon as a milestone is completed, that means all resources have been worked on, the status bar is fully filled, and you can go to the reflection phase. That means you have first you have the planning, you have the monitoring in this here by the progress bar, and you have the performance, of course, inside the course, and the fourth phase is the reflection. This is the I will show you later on. And so we have here a simple list. It looks really basic, like a to-do list or so. We have also another do, because our students at Distance Learning University in Hagen are usually studying for a term of 1 semester, means 6 months or so. That's really a long time. Some of them start later, some of them finish earlier, they work on the course. And just to get an overview about the temporal distribution of these activities or the planned activities and the milestones, we have a timeline here. There you can see again these boxes. Each box represents a milestone. You see the progress indicator again inside these boxes and the title of the milestone. Furthermore, we have a little activity indicator that you can easily map your activities with that may match one of these milestones. And you can also filter the total range of time here at the bottom. There's a big filter bar. You have some quick filters here to find the milestone relevant today or next week or next month. So this is another monitoring element, and now it will show you parts of our dashboard. It's kind of a learning dashboard, because so far we just considered those learning activities and resources that the student identified to be relevant. But we have another side. We have the side of the teacher who was intentionally planning and designing a course with a lot of different learning activities and elements. And what you see here is a structural view of this total course. You have different course units, and each line represents here a distinct unit, and each little box here indicates a particular learning resource. All the boxes that are in blue that have not been completed and worked on, all boxes that are green already completed. The completion here is captured automatically by the Moodle completion API. Then you might see here this little gray border at the bottom of some boxes. This shows you that you have included this resource into your milestone planning already. So you can see two things: how far your progress is related to the intended or offerings of the feature, and you see how far or how many of these resources you have been included into your planning. So this is a really important monitoring instrument that students really enjoy to use. At least we got a lot of good responses here, and also could see this in the data later on. Another thing that is part of the dashboard is the previously mentioned learning strategies. And we know from literature that it's really important for students to have different strategy at hand. For example, drawing a mind map of a course, reading through the course by scanning just the most important thing, writing summaries, writing down a structure of the text and course material, and so on. We collected several learning strategies as a kind of a learning resource within the course or on the meta level. And students use this and browse through, and we're looking for alternative methods, mostly in cases on situations when we have difficulties to progress in the course. What else you can see here is a note coming from the reflection part. As I said before, on the 2 slides before, we have this reflection button here, and if someone is clicking and wants to reflect what happened in the past and completed milestone, then we present a short questionnaire where you can answer questions regarding time management, about learning progress and things. And the students can also write down things they want to make. They want to make better in the future, and these notes can be seen here so that the student can easily relate them to potential relevant alternative learning strategies. So you may, now I have explained all the interface elements of the semester planning tool. You may ask how adaptation can come in here, because Moodle is not prepared for really good learning analytics, and it's not so good prepared for adaptive learning. And we need to we had to do a lot of effort to include suitable instruments into Moodle. What did we do? First, we included a learner model into the data warehouse, not in the Moodle database, so that you can see this, consider this as a data warehouse layer. The learning model contains the relevant indicators regarding the learning progress, regarding a specific progress regarding learning concepts and learning goals, includes activities related to the semester planning tool, like planning, monitoring, or reflection information. And this learning model is available on the client side, so not just on the server, on the database, but also in the client. That means if you open the browser, parts of this learning model are mirrored, so that's available on the browser. And now what comes into play is a rule set. So together with Heike and her colleagues, we are defining sets of rules, and rules consists of certain conditions that need to be, or if they are fulfilled, then a certain activity will be carried out. So these two things are brought together. That means the conditions contain values from the indicators coming from the learner model, and the rule manager here in the middle takes or is responsible for checking the rules, filling in the values from the learner model, and another information coming from the browser. That means we are also considering sensor information. We want to know where the user is exactly. You need to know, is the user really active? If someone is writing, it may be not a good idea to disturb him with, let's say, a hint or a prompt or any message. We are looking at the position of the page where someone is scrolling, is he at the top or at the middle or somewhere at the bottom, and further sensors are implemented here, and they are considered by the rule manager. Now, in case a rule can be triggered, then we have defined a set of actors. Actors executed and they become visible in the user interface of Moodle. They can be included at any place in Moodle. They can consist of a CSS modification, like changing color, changing font style. You can enter or include further text elements to like prompt messages. You can include alert boxes, modal dialogues, whatever you can imagine that is possible by HTML can be included into a course. And a few things of that, as you have seen already, these were the color of the boxes in the timeline and also in the milestone list. The color indicates whether a milestone is the due date is coming soon in a few days, or if you already have passed the due date. So this is an example for an actor. In the future, we want to find out another additional actors and additional rules that are relevant for supporting self-regenerative learning. So it means we have the technical foundation consisting of suitable planning tool, and we have a suitable adaptation rule interface, that is how is it called, that is a powerful architecture that is working. But we were really unsure what rules are suitable for our students. That's why we were conducting a field study. A field study with the aim for finding a potential for adaptive self-regulated learning. We wanted to capture metacognitive behavior during the SIL phases as a baseline. A baseline is really important because we want to prepare this baseline behavior with later on with adaptive behavior, and we need to want to find data-driven information relevant for defining this adaptation rules. Yeah, we also want to relate this trace data with learning activities and the learning performances, as well as observations of planning and self-reports coming from the list inventory. So we had in our paper all three different research questions today. In this talk, I want to focus on the first question: how do learners use the tool to plan, monitor, and reflect on learning activities? The study was designed as follows. So we had two courses, one in computer science, one in educational science. These both are bachelor courses, as usual at the Distance Learning University, at least in Germany. More than 500 people enrolled in the CS or computer science course, but only 180 students participated in our study. That was yeah, they had the choice. They had to fulfill a consent in line with the GDPR and so on. And 93 of them also completed the survey later on. Yeah, and similar is in the educational science courses, but we had slightly more participants here, 340 in total. The Moodle course, as described, consisted of the semester planning tool, and besides that, we had large text resources. We call these long pages where the course material is represented. We had a couple of self-testing or self-assessment assignments. We had a discussion forum, especially in educational science, and a supplementary material. The data collection was mainly done using the Moodle database at the Moodle log store. We collected all click informations and sometimes also mouse over interactions. And at the beginning of the semester, we asked the students to participate in a survey consisting of the list K inventory. The field study started on 1st of October 2020 and ended, or at least our data collection that we were using for this article, ended at 10th of March. The course in general ended at the end of March this year. So here we see some results. As I said, we're collecting different user interactions, like creating milestones, changing milestones, checking a resource in a milestone, and so on. And we were mapping these different activities to the three relevant phases of self-regenerative learning. This means the monitoring, the planning, and the reflection. So what you can see here is for the education course, for example, you see a lot of bars, and each bar represents the cumulated number of students that were doing, for example, a monitoring activity in 1 week. So each bar here represents 1 week from the end of September actually to the 10th of March, and week 10 in 2021. So what you can see here is first there's a difference between the both courses. So the bar, the y-axis ends here at 150 and here at 60, but this is not in line with the number of total participants. So you have Then you can see first here that the students in educational science really made more use of the semester planning tool in general. And what you can see here, they were also using the planning activity, or more students were using the planning activity during the whole semester. But in computer science, the usage went down, and the major activity that could be captured here was the monitoring by using the instruments like the timeline and also these little bars with the blue and green boxes. The lowest number of students were using the reflection tools, including the learning strategy offers. Yeah, this also went down at the end of the semester. You see a little valley here. This is around Christmas. It's the time where the students usually are not so active in our courses. This is a big factor. So in general, we can say that the tool was used by almost half of the students that were actively joined the study. Some of them ignored these tools. This is something that happened. The planning, as said before, the students in education science were more familiar with the planning activities, and they were using it for the whole semester, and the students preferred. Yeah, this is another important thing. They did not really prefer to create their own milestones, but they were really happy to update and change the existing milestones. That means I forgot this before. We provided them a personalized milestone plan at the beginning, and this plan was designed by the teachers and was based on different little questionnaire where the students had to answer whether they aim to do the exam, or whether they want to just have an overview of the course information, or if they are interested in a particular topic. So these three cases were considered, and we really enjoyed to use this predefined milestone plan, and they're changing this plan by their own means. Monitoring is the most important thing for us, and we need to further invest more effort in this monitoring elements here because we can use this as an answer for further planning activities, also for reflection. Reflection, as I said, was not used that often. The conclusions from these two field studies, or field study in two courses, is that most students benefit from the semester planning. The most active students benefit from the semester planning tool more than the remaining students that were not so active in the course. That means later on in the future we need to consider this, or we need to keep an eye on those students who are not that active, that they also get in some opportunities to get a support for self-regulation. We saw a high acceptance in these pre-structured learning plans that were individually customized by the students. That means we could extend this way by providing more detailed and even more personalized and maybe adaptively personalized plans with milestones that particularly fit the need of the student. And we found some relations between the semester planning tool usage and the list pay inventory, the questionnaire, the self-report of the students. But we found differences between the both courses. And computer science and educational science students had different correlations here. And furthermore, we could not confirm the results from Suki et al. The absence of certain learner types as activist, reflector, theorist, pragmatist, that was something we could not identify in our data so far. So as an outlook, we want to extend the monitoring to more adaptive learning analytic dashboards, including recommendations for metacognitive, cognitive, and resource-related strategies of SRL. We want include context-sensitive situated reflection prompts or nudges so that the students get more used to reflect their own learning process. And we want to foster the application of different learning strategies. That means so far we have just the information offer about different strategies, but now we want to match these strategies with certain situations and activities of the learner so that we can recommend strategies or changes of strategies. And we want to interweave the planning and the individual course activities. So that means so far we have this semester planning tool headed on the course overview page, but we want to include parts of this into other parts of the course so that you can easily, for example, add an activity to an existing milestone, or that you can easily get an overview when you have done some activity last time. So thank you. This was the outlook and the conclusion of our semester planning, and we hope looking forward to approach adaptive learning for self-related learning support.
Thank you, Niels, thank you, Heike. We have time for just one question because we are quite just a little late. You can find your question in the question and answer section. I read the question for the audience. What is the connection between SRL, that is self-regulated learning, and adaptive learning in your approach in pedagogical terms? I mean, what pedagogical feature of adaptive learning can benefit learner who follows your SRL approach? I don't know if Niels or Heike.
I will, I think. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for this question. I'll try to make a bit clearer what our approach is in the first research and development iteration. So though we are working with two totally different courses, we first put the focus on supporting self-regulated learning on the metacognitive base. So this is why we built up this learning, monitoring and reflection tool, really to underline this metacognitive process. And then later on, we can have a look how we can make, for example, selection of learning strategy recommendations or learning strategy content that is more in line with the course content and with the course what is called Prüfung, with the sorry, with the exams or the form of exams and exam preparation affordance. Yes.
Okay, thank you for the reply. Thank you for your nice presentation.